It's the Hot Stove presented by the Couple Mets podcast. I'm Ian Bosniak, joined alongside by Robert Venegas as always. Just a reminder before we get going, give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. We are at Couple Mets. Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And with that, Robert, the Mets have beefed up the bullpen here with just about 9-10 days to go until pitchers and catchers report. How we feeling about the moves? How you doing?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel good. I mean, again, with reports coming out from Andy Martino saying that the Mets were done, most likely done with the offseason, the Mets land Jake Diekman to like a 1 year deal worth about like 4 million and a vesting option for 2025. And then they also get the next day, they also get let me see if I got this, Shintaro Fujinami.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
You
nice.
got that.
And he's also a 1 year deal. I want to say around 3.35 million with 850K in incentives. I love him, Ian. I mean, again, we talk about that second lefty to complement Brooks Raley. A guy like Jake Diekman's a perfect fit, and then Fujinami. The Mets didn't even throw a pitch over 100 miles per hour last year, and Fujinami tops out at 103. So another guy that could bridge the gap to Edwin Diaz and add on to that setup man role with Adam Ottavino. I love it, man.
Isn't it unreal that we didn't throw a pitch over 100 miles per hour last year? Meanwhile, in 2022, like we were throwing bullets between Edwin Diaz and Jacob DeGrom and Bryce Montes de Oco when he showed up. But yeah, no, dude, Jake Diekman, Shintaro Fujinami, bringing them in is big. You know, Diekman has a ton of experience. He's 37 years old. As you mentioned, 4 million bucks and then 3.35 million bucks to Fujinami. That's within that $10 million range that was kind of reported that the Mets had and were kind of willing to spend. Diekman in 2023 at 3.34 ERA, 3.75 FIP, pitched to a .4 WAR. Something that I really like is that in Diekman, you also get a pitcher that can get right-handed hitters out. Right-handed hitters hit to a 151 batting average against Diekman, and Diekman also held left-handed hitters to a 229 batting average again. So he's very capable of getting both right and left-handed hitters out, similar to a Brooks Raley. And then something that I really like about Fujinami, I mean, I don't mean to like hop around here, but something that I really like about Fujinami, looking at his splits and his numbers, while he had a very interesting rookie season, hitters only hit 211 off of him. Lefty hitters only hit 211 against him. So a guy like Fujinami can also, pitch to left-handed hitters. So I think it's a really, really nice mix, and I like the upside on this. I really like the way that the Mets bullpen shaping out.
Yeah, definitely. Upside is a great word to use. I mean, again, you can mix and match. Mendoza in his first year as Mets manager, he could really, you know, finagle some shit in terms of who to pitch where in certain situations. So I don't really remember the last time the Mets had like this band of characters in the bullpen that can get both righties and lefties out.
Yeah, they're deep.
Um, yeah, and to not to backtrack, but to be fair, obviously if Edwin Diaz didn't get hurt last year to start the season in the World Baseball Classic, the Mets wouldn't even, the Mets would be up there in terms of 100 miles per hour
Yeah.
pitches. But again, we got a little bit of a mix of soft throwing lefties, a hard throwing lefty, and then a guy that could throw 103, and then another guy that could throw 100 to close games, along with a freaking filthy ass slider. So I'm really excited, man, and can't forget the human slider himself. We did get Ottavino back. So again, man, guys like Drew Smith doesn't have to pitch in like high leverage situations. Jorge
Yep.
Lopez can pitch in the sixth, fifth, seventh innings now. Man, I mean, again, I'm to be excited like this. It's definitely a mood change from where we were 2, 3 weeks ago. So I'm glad with these signings. Yeah, definitely.
Low key, I mean, we were pretty hyped when the Mets signed Severino and Wendell within that same day, right? That was probably the peak of the offseason, if you think about it. The other moves were kind of spread out, but these two moves, I don't know exactly what you just said. I feel the most excited here in the beginning of February. You know what I mean about the Mets' latest moves and bringing Diekman and Fujinami. So, really like what I've done. Really what I've done. I'm not doing shit. Really like what they've done, and you know when you look at Diekman again, just he's projected to toss 59 innings this year in 59 games, 3.92 ERA, 4.28 FIP. Um, the thing is exactly it lengthens out the Mets bullpen. They have a deep bullpen. They're projected Diaz, Ottavino, Rayleigh, Smith, now Diekman, Fujinami, Jorge Lopez, and then Phil Bickford. It takes a lot of pressure off of a guy like Jorge Lopez to bounce back, and up until I guess the last week where the Mets re-signed Adam Ottavino and brought in Diekman and Fujinami, we were saying that, man, Jorge Lopez is going to be a big X factor going into the year. He still is going to be, right? But now you look at the pressure that's taken off of maybe a Jorge Lopez and a Phil Bickford to perform, and they could pitch in more low leverage situations. And same thing with Drew Smith. We know that sometimes he likes to throw lollipops, and you know, uh, we've grown accustomed to seeing that from him. But he's not going to be pitching in those high leverage situations in the eighth inning, and I think that's really really great. And then Diekman has those traits that as he gets older, obviously you're going to decline at a certain point, but he's got the stuff, he's got the makeup that he's just been a consistent pitcher for the entirety of his career. Not only results, but in terms of durability. And I like that because the Mets haven't had consistency in the pen. And then obviously you give him a vesting option if he pitches well. Hey, we bring him back for 2025 and he's a part of a year that, we're looking to win. And then in Fujinami, you look at his ERA from this past year, 7.18 ERA. Obviously, it was split between Oakland and Baltimore. Once he went to Baltimore, he was a completely different pitcher. But it
Mm-hmm.
just shows as well, a 7.18 ERA in 64 games, you would say, wow, this is, one of the worst arms and one of the worst stat lines I'm looking at. He pitched to a 4.61 FIP. So much better than his ERA
Like the ERA,
suggests.
yeah. Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And then again, a guy like Fujinami just needed a change of scenery, it seemed like, because once he got to Baltimore, he was pitching really well. And then same with Jake Diekman, he joined the Tampa Bay Rays in May and his ERA was in the twos. So again, guys like that, and again, the Mets are trying to reinvent the wheel in terms of like the pitching lab and being that team that just, molds pitchers into, their highest potential or peak. Diekman and Fujinami are perfect examples of this. So again, I'm very excited. And again, if we really want to get creative too, you never know. Maybe a trade package comes into the works, and a guy like Drew Smith is in that trade package. Then you really, get creative and mix up that bullpen. And again, because I do know they have Michael Tonkin as well,
Yeah.
competing with like a Phil Bickford. And I just saw on Twitter. I wish Matt was here because he would know the name. But we have like a 6'10" guy in our farm system that's like could potentially be like a surprise pickup in the big league, and or like a big league
Who,
surprise that makes the
Nate
team.
Lavender? I don't know if he's
Yeah, something like
6'10".
that.
Is it
Something
Nate
Lavender. I know.
Lefty?
He's a righty actually. He's like a big 6'10" frame. Like he pitched to like a 2 ERA in Double A last year, and he's expected to like be in like a spring training invite. And they
Yeah.
said he might sneak up and make the team, but again, just more arms to the fold, and that's what the Mets have been lacking.
Yeah, I would look on my computer and try to dig to find who you're talking about, but my computer's running so slow right now that I'm not even going to. Maybe it's Eric Ors or yeah, I mean Eric
He's not
Ors.
bad either. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Eric Ors. The Mets announced 3 days ago. The Mets announced 12 minor league invites: Drew Gilbert, Tomas Nido, Kevin Parada, Hayden Sanger, Jet Williams, Dominic Hamill, Eric Ors, Christian Scott, Mike
Oh,
Vasile,
I
Nate
got it. It's
Lavender.
Paul Gervasi.
Oh, Paul Gervasi.
Gervasi set up to
Yeah.
help Mets weak spot next. Yep.
Okay. Well,
Strong season out of the bullpen for Double A Binghamton. Yep, that's the guy I'm talking about.
see, and that's the good thing. So you look at the 40-man roster, and I'm not sure if he's on the 40-man roster or whatnot, but you look at some of these pieces that the Mets have picked up during the offseason and some of the players that they've been developing, and some of the arms that are in Double A and Triple A, and the Mets, I say deep because not only, big league wise are they deep, they have the depth now. And as I said from the outset, the bullpen is looking like one of the stronger suits. And, I mean, you mentioned before Fujinami needing a change of scenery. It was also his first year in Major League Baseball. He had
Yeah, yeah.
been in the NPB, and something big was when he came over and was going after it. For Oakland, he started his first 7 games. He pitched to a 7.16 FIP when
as a starter,
he
right?
as a starter. When
He
he
pitched against the Mets, I think. He started
Yeah,
against the Mets. Yeah.
yeah, and as he transitioned out of the rotation into the bullpen, his numbers started to improve. But then when he went to the Orioles, he was a completely different pitcher. 387 FIP as a reliever. So that just goes to show you he doesn't give up home runs out of the pen. I mean, as far as it suggests, I mean, listen, as a starter, per 9 innings, 7.13 Ks, 6.11 walks, 2.4 home runs per 9 innings. As a reliever, 10.13 Ks per nine, 4.8 walks per nine, much improved, and a .73 home runs per nine. So obviously a much more effective reliever than he is a starter, and we won't need him
Mhm.
to be a starting pitcher, right? So, and it's good also because he can obviously give you innings out of the pen as
Yeah.
well, and so can a guy like Michael Tonkin, as you mentioned. So again, I really like what they've done, and I also, it kind of goes into when you look at the rotation. Obviously, the rotation is a weak spot and a complete question mark in and of itself. But we've spoken over this winter about the potential of, maybe starters going 4 innings or 5 innings and then the bullpen carrying the rest of the weight. And you look at the way that this offseason's shaping up, and it's seeming like the bullpen has been the biggest thing that they have addressed. Whereas the rotation, like you have a guy like Sean Manaea who was flip flopping between a reliever and a starter last year, you might have a situation where Manaea goes 4 innings, not like he, pitched poorly or anything, but you could have him go 4 innings, bring in, uh, Fujinami for 2 innings, have a Diekman for the seventh, have Ottavino for your eighth, and Diaz for your ninth, or something along those lines. Like you can get creative now.
Yeah.
And I mentioned only 3 or 4 other names. You know what I mean? And even that goes for the rest of the rotation as well. So again, I commend David Stearns for what he's done. Obviously, I wanted to see um obviously I would have loved to see the Mets land a big fish in a Yamamoto or something along those lines. But considering how he patched the rotation, I think he's done an excellent job securing the bullpen and making sure that, hey, if a starter doesn't have it that day, or if a starter is out or this or that, the Mets have those pieces that can come in from the pen and give you innings and can be really effective and have shown it. I mean, listen, when you're looking at the pen, just 1 through 10, what's your confidence level going into the year?
So, I mean, again, a lot of new faces, um, and then a couple same old guys, that obviously, have had their ups and downs with the Mets. But again, like I said in the beginning, you asked me this question 2, 3 weeks ago. My confidence level was lower than it is now. But I'm gonna have to give it like a solid 7, honestly. Again, like you said, like we're one sexy name away from the bull. Like we're one sexy name away from like making this bullpen like stellar. When you texted the group and was like, let's F and go, I thought we got Liam Hendricks or something like that. Not even gonna lie to you, but again, like the Mets have, like you said, made it where we can mix and match, we can get creative, and just pitch guys. If starters don't have it, maybe a couple openers in this mix. But I can't wait to see what they do, honestly. But my confidence level right now is at a solid 7. I really think David Stearns has done his due diligence on all these guys, and there's a reason for everything. And not only for that, like talk about the best bang for your buck. Like if these guys end up working out, then those $3-4 million contracts are going to look like, hey, he did his due diligence, he did his job. They're going to look a lot sweeter. So yeah, my confidence level right now is at a 7.
Yeah, and especially like when you look at I don't want to copy you, but I was gonna say 7 as well, and just even like a guy like Fujinami, as I said, before,
Mm.
not to, just completely continue diving into the numbers, but averaged 98 miles per hour on his fastball. He was within the 78th percentile in whip percentage. So if he can work within the pitching lab as well, you have some game changers in that pen. And I have to say my confidence level is at a 7 as well. It's it's exciting, and it's the first time that I can say that I've been excited, because I can see a way that the Mets can patch weaknesses of the rotation with the bullpen, and all is well, and we'll start to see it play out in 10 days when pitchers and catchers are set to report. It's unreal. Pitchers and catchers are set to report in 10 days, 18 days until the spring training games begin. It's crazy that it's actually here.
Definitely, man. And couldn't be more excited, honestly, because again, as much as I love football and basketball, nothing beats being outside. We had a couple days with the sunshine, these last 2 days in New York. So again, it just reminded me of baseball season coming, and I can't wait.
I thought you were gonna say, we had a couple days of sunshine. I thought you were gonna say last year, and I was gonna be like, yeah, I mean that sounds about right,
Yeah,
considering
yeah,
considering it rained every time we went to City Field or went on the road. But
yeah. I mean, even the last couple weeks, there's been a lot of rain and grayness, but again, it's nice to see the sun is actually a thing, and it was out this Sunday and yesterday as well.
and the
So
and the groundhog said that spring's coming early. So
yeah.
you
Oh,
know,
dude, I heard about that.
yeah, it depends how much you look into
The groundhog.
the groundhog's
Yeah.
weather projections.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another note: the Mets are going internal at DH most likely. You and Matt both called it last week. Not saying that you were, excited about saying that that's the way that the Mets were going to go. How do you feel about the Mets going with, a platoon of maybe a DJ Stewart and Mark Vientos over at DH?
I mean, again, listen, you know my stance on this when we're off air or when we're not recording. I would have liked a Justin Turner. I would have liked I mean, again, he's still out there, a JD Martinez, a Jorge Soler to fill in this spot. But again, if they're gonna go internal, I'm excited to see what Vientos has to offer. I mean, I love DJ Stewart as well, as like a fourth, fifth outfielder and a backup DH or whatever, or a platoon DH, considering the type of year he had as well last year. But just the fact that we're letting the kid play from Miami. I remember when we drafted him in the second round out of high school. Again, he does have pop. He swung and missed a lot the last 2 years, but at the end of the day, if we give him 400 to 500 at bats, and he's hitting 18 to 22 home runs, um, at like a 240 to 250 average, with 50 to 60 runs batted in, as a first year full time DH. I'll take it. Again, it just would have been nice to have like a JD Martinez or Justin Turner, just in case, like not even just in case, but like just to make that lineup even deeper. And God forbid one of Vientos or Stewart gets hurt, then who's next? Who's that big call up that the Mets would plug in, and grind out some ABs in that DH spot. But again, not really the biggest fan of it right now, but it's more of a wait and see type of feeling.
You know, my stance all off season. I get
Definitely.
bothered by
Yep.
the fact that the Mets can't drive in runs with runners in scoring position, and there's always up and downs with certain players. I mean, that's expected with any team, but there's so many question marks. You have to look at McNeil and Marte. You have to hope that they bounce back. Alvarez and Beatty. You have to hope that they take that next step. Obviously, Alvarez was much more successful than Beatty was last year, but they're both slated to start. You have a Harrison Bader who excellent defensive wise, but not the greatest hitter, slated to start in center field. So who's really going to, who do we have that we can say without a doubt is going to protect Nimmo, Lindor, and Alonso? We don't, because, it kind of hinges on will Marte and McNeil bounce back? Will the lineup be deeper? Something that came out earlier this week, Zips came out with their projections, and someone you brought up, JD Martinez, he's a guy that I would like as well. Projections don't mean anything. I shouldn't say they don't mean anything, but they don't tell the full picture. Obviously, Mark
Mhm.
Vientos, they projected 238 with 20 home runs, 53 RBIs, a 728 OPS, accumulating to a 1.7 WAR, whereas JD Martinez projected a 245 average, 22 home runs, 60 RBIs, a 768 OPS, but only a point 0.7 WAR. Now, I think that Vientos is getting more in that more war because I think the defense is playing into that. Whereas Vientos, you assume, is going to get some reps at third, whereas JD Martinez doesn't matter really where he lands. He's not expected to play defense, so that does factor
Mhm.
into war. Um, but their numbers are really similar. Obviously, a Jorge Soler would hit you 35 home runs, so that would be a difference maker. But Jorge Soler wants multiple years, and I think at this point in the offseason, the Mets are kind of beyond that point. And if they would have signed Soler, I think they would have done it already. Um, I mean, I'm not necessarily. I won't say I'm confident or I'm not confident because, as you said, it's more of a wait and see type deal. I just, I also think it makes room for a potential call up when it comes to a guy like Drew Gilbert. You know what I mean? Then if a guy like Drew Gilbert comes up at some point and takes over that center field role and he produces offensively, then it takes less pressure off of a DH spot. So I think that there's a lot of things that the Mets are looking at, a lot of different options, and then, they can always DH I don't know. They can always get creative and start Joey Wendell somewhere and DH one of their infielders. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like they can mix and match. They have a lot of different options here, but do I like it? No. But at the end of the day, we're gonna see what Beatty and Alvarez fully have in a full campaign. So yeah, may as well see what Vientos has as well.
No, yeah, and then again, you were comparing projections and all that. I guess the Mets and David Stern see the same thing that you're seeing, because again, why not even waste, but why spend a couple $1 million again on a JD Martinez, on a Justin Turner, when in reality you have a quote unquote projection statistic wise, a guy that can give you the same type of numbers,
Yeah.
if you comprehend what I'm
S-
trying to say.
Yeah,
So
same output.
yeah, yeah. So again, I don't blame Stearns again for doing his due diligence, for doing his research. He probably believes in a kid like Vientos, who's come up through the system and all that. But again, I really like getting creative in terms of, say, one of Stewart or Vientos does go down, then maybe you shift Marte to that DH spot, and then a guy like Drew Gilbert comes up, plays right field for the
Sure.
time being. Whereas 2025, he'll shift over to center, and that's more down the line. But again, again, the Mets are going to get creative, I feel like, and God willingly, hopefully everybody stays healthy. But if one of these two guys go down, I do think a call up like that is realistic and in our future. So
And even a Marte, the Mets are going to want to get off the field.
yeah,
I
keep him in the
mean,
lineup,
yeah,
especially if he's breaking.
exactly. If he's hitting the ball, but they're a little wary of his, health or his defense, you slot
Mhm.
him in at DH, and you have a bat. Um,
Exactly. And then again, if they want him to steal more, like the same amount of bags that he's always done, that 18 to 25 range, and they want him to run more if he gets on base, then it only makes sense just to have him worry about hitting and DH, and opposed to putting him out there 9 innings every 5 days.
yeah, no, you're definitely right about that. And it's funny how I mentioned infielders. I didn't even think about a Starling Marte. He's probably the biggest candidate to potentially
Yeah.
be a DH at some point, given his durability issues. But
And even
um,
McNeil can play some right, but again, it
well,
depends.
yeah,
Like, and that's
exactly.
the thing too. Like a
And
Luis
then Wendell
Avenel.
can and then
Oh,
Wendell
yep.
can play second.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, and that's why we got a Joey Wendell, and not to just go AWire and talk about this, that, and the third. But again, I feel like that's why they signed Wendell, because then again, he could play some left field, he could play third, he could play second. It's like you mix and match, like we've been talking about all offseason.
They're going to have options. That's for sure. And something else that, the last thing that I wanted to touch upon, really when it comes to the Mets right now is that there was a report that came out that the Mets are also, obviously Steve Cohen has deep pockets, and I think another reason why they haven't signed JD or a Jorge Soler is that they will cost more money to the Mets than they would to other teams because the Mets are exceeding the tax threshold. So really, if the Mets were to sign a JD Martinez, let's say at $15 million, they would really be paying, let's say, $35 million for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously that wouldn't all go to
And then
JD.
probably, and what, giving up draft capital too, or
Yeah. So it's not necessarily um worth it at this point. But in regards to money, the Mets are saving extra cash for the trade deadline. And I love to see that. And that's something that I like that it was made public,
Mhm.
because at least it's like, hey, listen, we're not necessarily going after this big bat that everybody wants, but acknowledge that we do have cash that we can spend at the offseason and we can pick up a guy that maybe is about to hit free agency. If we can get a rental or if we're going to get a guy that's under team control, like we can make that impact trade if we want to,
Yeah.
um, and if we're in it, and so I like hearing that because at least it's saying to me, all right, if the Mets are in wild card contention, the Mets have the money to go ahead and add pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say what I like about it is that the Mets expect to compete this year, and with all these reports about we're not gonna do this, they're not gonna do that, they're gonna do this, they're gonna stay packed on this. David Stearns and company expects to compete and expects to win some baseball games. So, they're looking ahead and saying, hey, if we're like you said, if we're in it around June, July, August, we're going to make that move and we're going to save and we're going to make sure we have money so we can make that move. So I couldn't agree more, man. And that's why I think I've gotten a little more excited for as pitchers and catchers reports just in 10 days. So again, 2024, never know.
Yeah, excited and a little bit more optimistic.
Yeah, exactly.
You
That's
know,
a better word.
ton
Yep.
of ton of question marks. Don't get us wrong there. Ton of
Mhm.
question marks. Don't think that we're on cloud nine here after the Mets added Jake Diekman and Shintaro
Yeah,
Fujinami. Like we're not, but it's a little bit more realistic to kind of see where the Mets are going. And again, as the season approaches, I think no matter what fan base you are, you start to get excited about the possibilities of your team. So again, 10 days until pitchers and catchers report, and we couldn't be more excited here. So as promised, every year we go over our top 10 at each position. And unfortunately, Matt's not here, so he'll catch up next episode. We mentioned in the previous episode that we would go catcher and first base to start this little top 10 segment here. So Matt will reveal his next episode along with second base and shortstop, as will Rob and I. But Rob and I will kick off our top 10 at catchers and first base entering the 2024 season. Since I'm talking already, I'll just start. For catchers at number 10, I have Yainer Diaz from the Astros. He just beat out Francisco Alvarez. At 9, I have Wilson Contreras, the veteran from the Cardinals. 8, Gabriel Moreno had a great postseason for the Diamondbacks last year. 7, Jonah Heim from the Rangers. 6, I have Cal Riley. Cal Riley, incredible offensive season last year for the Mariners. Also great defensively. Will Smith of the Dodgers. 5, William Contreras. Great trade for both teams, Braves and the Brewers. He's at 4. I have the veteran JT Realmuto at 3 from the Phillies. Sean Murphy, the other half of that trade, at 2. And then 1, Mr. Adley Rushman, who I think is the consensus this year.
definitely the consensus. I mean, shout out to you for putting Will Smith at number 5. I can't wait to see those comments when the
Yeah, we'll see.
Instagram post goes on.
We'll
But
see.
yeah, before I give my list, just shout out to our followers who shit on my list last year. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about my lists this year. So for number 1, obviously Adley Rushman is my number 1 catcher for 2024. Number 2, I Will Smith. I don't really agree with Boz that he's top 5. I think he's top 2 and he's number 2. But we'll get
Agree to
into that.
disagree.
Agree to disagree. That's the beauty of it. Whatever. Number 3, I have Sean Murphy. I agree with you. Like I said, great trade, or like you said, great trade for both sides, the Brewers and the Braves. Number 4, I got JT Realmuto. Someone I wish the Mets had signed when we had the chance, but we got James McCann instead. Anyways, number 5, I have William Contreras. Number 6, I have Wilson Contreras. I love that guy. I love the way he catches baseballs. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, he's top 10 always overall.
You like the
even
way
with
he
the
catches
Cubs.
balls. All right, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Anyways,
brother.
anyways, number 7, I have penciled in Cal Raleigh. Number 8, Yainer Diaz, young catcher for the Astros. Number 9, I have Jonah Heim from the Texas Rangers. And number 10, I'm a homer, Francisco Alvarez.
I don't know. It's not too biased, as I said. He was right outside my my top 10 for catchers. First base. You want to go? You want to go first?
All right, I'm gonna go first for first baseman. My top 10. I'm gonna go starting from number 10. Number 10 is Ty France, the Seattle Mariner. I believe he went to North Carolina University. I could be wrong. I probably am wrong, but it's all good. I love Ty France at number 10. Number 9, Tristan Casas, the Boston Red Sox. Number 8, Christian Walker, beast for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Home run machine. Christian Walker at number 8. Number 7, I got Yandy Diaz. Guy always hits for average, hits for power, and not only that, he gets on base at a high clip. Yandy Diaz at number 7. Number 6, I got Vladdy Guerrero Jr. from the Blue Jays. Number 5, he cracked my top 5 this year. Paul Goldie Goldschmidt, the seasoned vet, just keeps doing it. He's always in the top 10 first basemen, whether he's on the Diamondbacks or the Cardinals, whatever team he is. He's a natural hitter. Love Paul Goldschmidt at number 5. Number 4, the once catcher converted outfielder converted to first base because he had Tommy John surgery. Bryce Harper from the Philadelphia Phillies cracks my top 4. He's number 4 for first baseman. Number 3, this one was tough, man. The top 3 was tough. I know what Braves fans are going to say to me, that I suck, that I fucking favor the Mets. I don't really care. But number 3 is Matt Olson. He's a beast, capable of hitting 50 home runs if he wanted to, but not better than the polar bear himself. I got the polar bear Pete Alonso at
Whoa.
number 2. Yes, I know. Like I said, I'm going to get shit on by Braves fans, but it's all good. And number 1, the Los Angeles Dodger, clear-cut favorite in my eyes, Freddie Freeman, the pure hitter, lefty. He's been doing it for years with Atlanta, now doing it with the Dodgers. Number 1, Freddie Freeman for 2024.
I mean, listen, not only do you get shit on by Braves fans because you're a Mets content creator, but it's also because you forgot to add Ozzy Albies to your top 10 second baseman last year. So that kind of rubbed them the wrong way, and they made
Yeah,
made
I
it
put
known.
Glaber,
Yeah, they made
in
it.
there.
Yeah. My top 10 from 10 to 110, I have the young first baseman from the Rangers, Nathaniel Lowe. At number 9, I have Christian Walker of the Arizona Diamondbacks. At number 8, I have Tristan Casas from the Boston Red Sox. At 7, I have Yandy Diaz. I echo exactly what you said. Gets on base at a high clip, hits for average, hits for some pop, and then also can play multiple positions. I have him at 7. I have Paul Goldschmidt at 6. He dropped a little bit for me. 5, I have Pete Alonso. So, we have a little bit of difference there. Vladdy Guerrero Jr., listen, the only reason why Alonso and Guerrero are where they are is Guerrero hits for more average. I can't deny that. Alonso hits for dingers, plays good defense, gets on base at a high clip, drives in runs, is clutch. But you look at Guerrero does all those things, plus, he hits for average. At 3, I have Bryce Harper, the first baseman now. At second, I got Matt Olson. Matt Olson did his thing last year. Phenomenal season, capable, as you said, of hitting 50 home runs. And then at number 1, Freddie Freeman. If Acuna didn't have the year that he did last year, he would have been the MVP. Tremendous year with the Dodgers. Future Hall of Famer. Freddie Freeman is the consensus number 1. And looks like you and I both agree with the number 1s for the first 2 positions this year of our top 10s. And I don't know. Do you think I assume that Matt will have Adley as number 1 as catcher for catchers, but do you think he's going to go with Freeman number 1 catcher, first baseman?
I'm sure. Honestly, I think so. Just because Matt's such like a big stat guy, that he is good with like the numbers and who hit for what and all that. And I'm sure he agrees with you in terms of the MVP voting. If Acuna didn't have the year that he did, he would probably vote for Freddie Freeman.
Freeman's such a stud. And then you look at the contract that he signed, and it's kind of like a bargain at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely a bargain.
but it worked. Listen, it worked out for both parties. Freeman's raking for the Dodgers, and Olson's raking for the Braves, and they're number 1 and 2 for me, and number 1 and 3 for you, respectively. So, with all that said, we'll continue on with this over the next couple episodes as we wrap up the hot stove season. Next up will be second base and shortstop. Catch that in a couple days. Again, as a reminder, be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. We are at Cup of Mets. Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And for Robert Venegas, I'm Ian Bosniak. Thank you again for joining us. Again, 10 days until pitchers and catchers report, guys. Buckle
Yes,
up.
sir.
Buckle up. Good night, everybody.